Now, once again, Raymond Arroyo.
Welcome back to The World Over. For the better part of a year, an intense debate has raged at the very upper echelons of the Catholic Church among its cardinals. Last February, Cardinal Walter Kasper, a progressive German bishop, unveiled a proposal that has dominated the conversation surrounding the Synod on the Family in Rome. The Pope has said he wants a robust debate, and some cardinals have delivered. Cardinal Kasper has been on an international tour promoting his ideas for relaxing the annulment process. And now, a new book, Remaining in the Truth of Christ, is rebutting him. The book includes contributions from 5 cardinals, among them Cardinal Raymond Burke, the head of the Apostolic Signatura, the Vatican's Supreme Court. I sat down with Cardinal Burke in Rome to discuss the implications of the Kasper proposal, streamlining the annulment process, and the Synod on the Family, which got underway this week. Here's my very candid interview with Cardinal Raymond Burke at his residence in Rome. I want to start with the Pope praising Cardinal Walter Kasper. This was back in February when the Cardinal issued his proposal in the form of an introductory statement to the Synod that's just beginning here. The Pope said this was profound theology, theology done on one's knees. Given that kind of papal endorsement, was there any hesitancy to critique what Cardinal Kasper was saying and to now become part of a book with a number of other cardinals rebutting most of his argument?
I have to say that, thank God, no, that a number of the cardinals spoke very immediately and very clearly, because the presentation of Cardinal Kasper was such that it demanded a strong response. Otherwise, to give the impression that what he said was acceptable would have been heading us down in a direction contrary to our Lord's own teaching, his very words in the gospel. And so perhaps on the part of some, but I know that a number of cardinals intervened immediately in the matter, in some sense have spoken very clearly on the subject. I think of someone like Cardinal Carlo Caffarra of Bologna, who is a world-class moral theologian and a wonderful archbishop, and he's spoken very clearly about this, given interviews and so forth. And
there seems to be a consensus emerging. You've got Cardinal Pell and Cardinal Mueller, certainly no slouch over the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith, yourself, and Cardinal Scola. Many others have joined their voices to this chorus. Who in the college are supportive of Cardinal Kasper's position at this point? Aside from Cardinal Kasper and a few members of the media, I don't see a wide group of cardinals or bishops coming to the defense here.
I really don't either. I'm not good at predicting these things, but I think the media has certainly taken it up as a kind of cause, and really for now this has been going on for 9 months, and the Cardinal Kasper has been going around giving talks in the United States and other places, and he continues to write, to give interviews, and the media have really promoted this. But I saw one news item from Germany where Cardinal Marx apparently said that the German bishops were all supporting him. First of all, I didn't verify whether the report itself was accurate, but I don't believe that. I know some very good bishops in Germany who I can't imagine are supportive of this approach that he's making.
Cardinal Kasper has been very direct in saying what you are a part of, you and these other cardinals, is nothing more than a political act, and that this is, quote, not the way we're to do things in the church. This is the way you do them in politics. He's stunned at the organized effort. Your response?
Well, we are servants of the truth. This is not any kind of political act at all. If you read the book is not polemical. No. The book doesn't promote some particular agenda. The book is at the service of the truth about marriage. I didn't choose the title, but it's a brilliant title taken from Familiaris Consortio, Remaining in the Truth of Christ. And that's what we we're trying to underline. And so when Cardinal Kasper gave his presentation and asked for a dialogue about this, asked for a response, some of us got together and we prepared a response. But it's a very scholarly presentation. You will see it. You can read all of the articles that cover the whole aspect of church teaching and discipline on marriage. It's very serene, but it's very carefully focused on the truth of the Catholic teaching as it has been always the Church's teaching. This isn't something that's recent, and it's presented in that way. So I don't understand how the Cardinal can make those kind of accusations that this was politics, this was a plot, nothing of the sort. In fact, it was very hard work for all of us to get together, and we wanted to offer it to the Holy Father and to the Synod in time, and so we had to. The consistory was toward the end of February, and we had to get to work and get this put together.
Now, will you be making sure that this gets into the hands of your brother bishops and cardinals and the fathers of the Synod?
Surely I will, and I'm sure others will be doing the same. But no, we want every member of the Synod. They simply should have this book in order to enjoy the results of the research which the authors have done and into the Church's teaching and discipline.
Yeah. I want to cover some of the major points that you touch on in your presentation, but that are covered in the book because they address different aspects of this question: what to do with remarried Catholics who are divorced and wish to enter into communion again. The Pope himself seemed to float the possibility of the Orthodox solution. And he put it this way: after a period of penance, he said, they give a second chance. They allow it. Your thoughts on that? And if that is a licit and valid way, historically speaking, and in the Catholic setting, to proceed?
I think that the clear approach is this. We begin with the words of our Lord when the Pharisees trying to trick him asked him about Moses permitting divorce. And our Lord responded very clearly, it was not so from the beginning. In other words, he underlines that the indissolubility of marriage is part of the natural moral law. And then he teaches very clearly, he said, the man who divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery. And this teaching had to be very clear because the disciples themselves said to him, well, Lord, if it's that way, it's better not to marry. And then he reminds them that God gives the grace to those who are called to the married state. So if I am married to someone, it's not possible for me to be married to someone else because that marriage is indissoluble. It's for life. And so to say, to give another chance, what does that mean? It has no meaning. As long as I remain married to that person, that it hasn't been shown that the marriage, in fact, although it was entered in good faith, was null because one or the other parties withheld an essential part of the content of marriage consent, or one of the other parties was bound by a prior union or something like that. Then I'm called for my lifetime to be faithful to that marriage. And so they talk about second chances. And the Orthodox, it's very interesting, but I haven't heard a single Orthodox leader praise Cardinal Kasper's intervention and saying, well, isn't it wonderful that you Roman Catholics now have seen the wisdom of our approach? Because it isn't what it's being presented to be. And it's not clear. They don't talk about it as a real marriage. They talk about it as a penitential marriage, as some kind of an accommodation. But it's clear also, it seems to me, that they understand that they're in some way they're not doing what the Lord has commanded us.
Well, and the Archbishop in the book runs through the history, fascinating history.
Excellent.
And he points out that in the 9th century, there was sort of a liberalized form of allowing remarriage. but it was under duress and pressure from an emperor.
Exactly.
A Byzantine emperor at the time.
No, the whole thing can be traced to this, what they call Caesaropapism. In other words, the undue influence of the emperors on the patriarchs.
Now, I can almost hear, when you were reciting there a moment ago, Jesus' response to the Pharisees, I can almost hear Cardinal Casper, whom in an America magazine interview recently said, and I quote, "We cannot simply take one phrase of the gospel of Jesus and from that deduce everything. Discipline can change." So I think we have here a theological fundamentalism that is not Catholic. You would respond how?
Well, if we don't take seriously every word of our Lord, I don't know who we are anymore. We're certainly not the church. We're not his mystical body. And secondly, to try to drive a wedge between discipline and doctrinal truth is simply false in the Catholic Church, because every discipline is at the service of a teaching or some sacred reality to safeguard it and to promote it. And that's why the Church has the discipline that she has. If it's being fundamentalist to hold strictly to the teaching on marriage, well, then I'm happy to be a fundamentalist.
I want to talk about something else Cardinal
Sure.
Casper has raised. He says he is projecting and proposing a merciful process, described thusly, and I quote, "Divorced and remarried people should find a good priest who accompanies them for some time, and if this second civil marriage is solid, then the path of new orientation can end with a confession and absolution." What's wrong with that path of mercy?
What's wrong with the path of mercy is that it doesn't respect the truth. I've accompanied couples who are in an irregular union, tried to help them in the sense that some are in unions where they can't easily leave the union because of children or whatever. Tried to help them to lead a chaste life, to, in as much as possible, respect the truth of a prior marriage. And that's the ultimate goal. But how can now suddenly accompanying them in that way justify telling them a lie about the fact that they're bound to another marriage?
Yeah, he's basically saying if you have a confession and an absolution, you should be allowed back into communion. Well, that's nice for the individual. What does it say about the first marriage? And, and what is the state of the second marriage, which even he says is intolerable? It's intolerable, but it's something we have to accommodate.
Yes, in this whole discussion, I've often thought we ought to at least get back to the principle of non-contradiction. In other words, something cannot be true and not true at the same time. In other words, it's either marriage or it isn't. But you raise a very good point, which many people don't consider. In his conversation, his whole concern is directed toward one party who's now in an irregular union. Yeah. But that party is bound to another spouse.
And children.
And children, possibly. A whole series of relationships with the marriage. I shouldn't call it the first marriage because it is the marriage. And now suddenly to say, well, no, this person can enter a new union, is to say to the wife or the husband, whichever it may be, to possible children and to others who knew them in marriage, that the church really doesn't respect the indissolubility of marriage. That yes, we teach that, but then on occasion when we act contrary to it. Well, that's simply unacceptable, and it's not good for the person himself or herself who we think we're trying to help by giving them a way out or a second chance, whatever you want to call it, of their situation, because the way to their salvation is to try to live as justly as they can in the sad, the tragic situation of a regular union. And secondly, it's certainly an injustice to the spouse of the person, to children, and to others for whom their married relationship